Welcome back. So, I don't know, maybe a couple days or a week ago, somebody left a comment asking about my Neovim config, and I promised them I'd make a video, and I was sitting down working on my project, and I realized, how can I procrastinate today? So I decided to make this video because I was editing my Neovim config after like a year, and I suddenly remembered. I was like, wow, I was supposed to make a video on it. So yeah. Anyways, this is my Neovim config, and this video is gonna have chapters on it, so you can skip to the end if you only care about how the config works. And if you really don't care, then you can check the description. Of course, I'd prefer you to, watch the video, but I know it can get boring. But before I do start, I wanted to tell you guys a little bit of a story and my journey with different editors. So I was introduced to Vim, at least, back when I was like 7. Not joking. So my dad, he decided, you know what, let's teach this 7-year-old kid Linux. He barely knows, like any advanced form of math, just teach the guy Linux. So he taught me Linux, and I remember we had this little laptop that was kind of crappy for the time, but it was like a 32-bit CPU on there. It was like a Windows XP era laptop, or maybe even like Windows ME. But I don't know if it was Windows ME. I might be getting my timeline wrong, but I know it was around Windows XP. I know it had Windows XP, but he basically had like multiple of those same laptops. I think like 3 or 4. And one of them had Red Hat Enterprise Linux on there with no GUI. It was just straight command line. And that's where I learned like the bulk of what I know actually not the bulk of what I know, but all the basic stuff that I know about Linux to this day I was taught when I was like 7. So I'm very glad my dad did that. And I mean, I still laugh about it, because I'm like, what was a 7-year-old going to do with Linux? But I thought it was really weird back then. But now I definitely am grateful for it. So I used Vim, I think it was Vim, not VI. Yeah, I think it was Vim. I used back then, and I learned how to use it, like basic stuff like insert mode, that, how to write, quit, all that stuff. And fast forward when I switched to Linux when I was a little bit older and I had like experience with programming and stuff, I naturally went to VS Code, not Vim yet, but I messed around with it a lot and I liked VS Code, but it did have that one problem of, I don't know, I never really had a problem per se with VS Code. I just never got the satisfaction when I was using it. I don't know. Maybe I fell into the hype of, changing your editor and messing around. But I did really like a lot of the Vim keybinds because I thought they were really interesting and intuitive. But at times they weren't intuitive, of course. But I really did like them. And I always thought that I could do everything in a terminal. That's so cool. But eventually I did check out Vim, but by that time I had tried out Neovim, and I tried one of those distributions, right? And I think the first one I checked out was called NVChad, and I used it and I liked it, but I felt like it was using like a chainsaw to cut a steak. I didn't really need that much. By the way, sorry for a terrible analogy, but the amount of stuff it had, I didn't really need it. So I basically decided, you know what, screw this, I'm going back to VS Code. And eventually I met a friend who did use Neovim. I think they use Neovim, but they had their entire config written in Vim script. And I don't know, that friend, I mean, they're not real, we don't talk at all anymore. It was a little bit strange, but regardless, with their help, I used VimScript to write my first config, and man, it sucked so bad. I went back to VS Code, and then I came back, tried out those other ones like Astro Vim, Lunar Vim, and all that other stuff. And again, it felt the same as NVChad, that it was just too much, and a lot of it I didn't use. So again, went back to VS Code. But then the third time or fourth, fifth, I don't know, I made a switch. I came to Emacs, and I still love Emacs, even though I don't use it. The main issue being Emacs is slow, at least slower than Vim. And when I say Vim, I mean Vim and Neovim. I'm just going to call it Vim. And I loved it, but it was so slow. So I checked out Doom Emacs. And again, Doom Emacs is like one of those distributions, so it was naturally very heavy. Same issues, and Emacs is pretty slow, so I had a lot of problems. And I did like it, but I decided to switch around editors, and then I made my own Emacs config, and it was still slow. And then eventually came back to Neovim, which where we are now. And I decided to write it in Lua. I didn't make the mistake of doing it in VimScript, which might piss off some people, because I know some people still use VimScript. And again, more power to you. It's your own personal choice, but I'm not dealing with VimScript. But I didn't know Lua either, because I never really used it. So, yeah. And this is my config. I think I have it on my GitHub, but I don't know if I ever shared my GitHub. I think the one I have is incredibly out of date. So by the time I upload this video, I'll have it up to date. So yeah, I just wanted to show around my Neovim config. And by the way, this isn't the best Neovim config on earth. Probably not even like halfway good, but it works, and yeah, I like it a lot. So let's get started. I have the init.lua. This will install Lazy, which is the package manager I decided to use. These are all the plugins that require some sort of configuration. And this is my personal config that I have. And yes, I use the mouse in Vim, make fun of me, whatever. I remember one time, because before this I used to be on Twitch, and I remember I was streaming some like coding session, and one guy was so shocked I used a mouse in Vim. Which I know for some people feels like the opposite of what Vim is, but I don't know. I don't really care that much. I just use what I find easy to use. So this is all the stuff that requires a configuration, and it's in Lua and inside the plugins folder. And each one of these plugins folder has an init.lua, which is automatically called when you do require. So let's check out config. This is just some like variables to make things easier to type from here. So I mapped the leader key to space. I set the tabs to 4. I have line numbers and relative line numbers. Relative line numbers are something I've recently done, because using this will give you hybrid. So it will show you the number line that you're on here. So I wanted to take advantage of like jumping up and down like pretty fast. Like if I do like 9 up arrow key, a 9 down arrow key, I can do that while also having the line number. And this removes the tildes after the buffer ends, like right here. Usually if you launch Neovim, it'll have like a bunch of tildes here. That just removes it. This enables the system clipboard. This disables netrw, which is the like tree here that shows up not on the side, but when you open Vim and you open up like a folder, it'll open in netrw. Oh, I forgot what this says. This is a spell checker I have, and this sets the default shell, and this is because I use Mac and Linux, and this was a recent addition because I recently got a Mac, so I use this. I set the theme to I don't know how to pronounce this, probably similar to cappuccino, but I use the mocha theme. Right here, this is the like the hover thing. So if I do Shift K, this is the window that pops up. So this enables it, and the buffer, like the little window that pops up, it's border. These are some macros that I have, not macros, sorry, keybinds I have. This uses telescope undo, which is so I can have like a tree to take a look at it, which I don't think I even use. Like, hold on, telescope. Yeah, like I use telescope, yeah, but I don't think I use the undo tree thing that it comes with. This is for switching the buffer. Before I used to have tabs and I stopped using them. So now I just hit Alt and just the arrow keys, or I just literally go in and double click it again. It doesn't open a new buffer, so it doesn't really matter. So I just use the tree. Yeah, this is the diagnostics window. So whenever you see these W's or the R, if I do space period, it'll show me the diagnostic errors here. This here is like the language server attach. Again, I don't really care about this that much. Most of the stuff that I have copy pasted, like this stuff, most of it I wrote myself, but sometimes when you actually get the plugin, they will have a README file with a sample configuration that you can edit. So this stuff is like, if I do GD, it can find like the definition and stuff, which I mean, I can show around in a C function, but this, again, Shift K that I showed you guys shows this. GI shows the implementation, signature help, Control K, workspace folder. Some of the stuff I don't really use. Type definition, rename I do use. So if I have a variable that I want to change, I just do space RN and it will show me on the bottom to rename it. Some of this stuff I actually don't use because, again, I just copy the config. So yeah, and again, space F will format it, which this one doesn't have a formatter for Lua. So yeah, this stuff is for telescope. So if I do leader FF, this will find files. If I do leader FG, this will do grep. So if I do like a local to see how many variables I've made, this will find buffers, and this will find help tags, which, oh, this is within like help. And this is for the leader. This is for the Neovim tree. So if I do space E, it closes it, space E, it opens it. So yeah, that's my config. Again, funny enough, I actually don't use any of this. I should actually go back and try to use some of this stuff because it seems pretty like good to use. Anyways, here is my lazy, like all the plugins I have. So I wouldn't say I have too many plugins. I just have a crap ton of dependencies. But I have Tokyo Night, Dracula. Some of these are just themes. Honestly, these I can just delete. I don't really use them. Mason, from what I recall, Mason's for like downloading this stuff, like language servers and LSPs, debuggers, linters, etc. Waka time is something I literally just started using today. It's to track how like active you've been in your coding sessions. I'm a terrible procrastinator, so I will sometimes have my project open and I'll be sitting there for 5 hours just doing work, and I feel like I've worked like 5 minutes because I'm just like watching YouTube instead. So I'm lazy sometimes, actually most times. Here's Telescope. Here's the Neovim tree. Lua line is the one on the bottom that shows like this stuff. Honestly, half this stuff I don't use aside from this, and I guess this, it just looks nice. None ls is the iteration for null ls. Cursor line, I'm blanking, I forgot what this was. Is Lua line and cursor line the same thing? Hold on, I could probably tell from here. Oh, I think it's this, where if I hover over this, it will show me where else it is, the word is. Honestly, I don't even know if I like care for this. I probably should uninstall it. To do comments I use so much, because if I do something like to do, it'll highlight it like that, and I can find it a lot easier in my code. I love using this. None ls is, I think, should be something here in the LSP section where yeah, FMT, oh, it's for the formatter. Sorry, again, as you can see, I haven't checked this out in a long time. It used to be called null ls, and then it wasn't maintained. Auto pairs is for whenever you do like any form of like bracket or parentheses, it will automatically do the next one. So it makes pairs, which is why it's called auto pair. And then CMP is the like LSP suggestions. So if I do like event or something, it shows it up like that. LSP signature is for seeing the signature of stuff, which doesn't really help that much in explaining what it does. But if I do open it up, hold on, LSP signature. Yeah, so it shows the signature of the method. So for example, if you're typing it, I used to have one that kind of auto-completed it for me. I really hated it, but I used this instead. This kind of highlights where you're at, and much better to use. It kind of pops up while you're typing, and it's not in the way. Neovim tree sitter is for like a better syntax highlighting experience. CMP spell is for spell checking with the autocomplete thing. Telescope undo is for the undo stuff. Again, I don't really use this. Which key is if I press the leader, it shows me all the stuff that I've mapped. If I do stuff like, I don't know, control W, it will show me all the stuff to make my life a little bit easier. So yeah, that's all the plugins I've installed. And you can take a look at my configs. We use the stuff that's built in. So we use Neovim's LSP config. This is somewhat related to the LSP, so I put it over here. I require it and set it up. This is for the formatters, and they've changed it in non-LS. This was really confusing when I switched over, but yeah, this is just the internal stuff. These are built in, and some of the stuff isn't built in, so you have to do it like this. This is for code completion. We use vsnip, and yeah, I don't know. I don't really remember a lot of this stuff. This is the window that pops up when you're doing the CMP. Like, CMP means completion, not compare, by the way. So whenever you're typing it, it shows the window for it. Same stuff here. This will show like get stuff here, I think. Yeah, sorry. This will, when I type here, it'll also show here. Like if I do Mason, it shows me all this stuff here. This is LSP config. This is the setup like Rust analyzer. This is the setup Clang D. This is set up all the other LSPs that I have. This one's for Lua. Again, I just have it here so it doesn't complain when I'm looking through my config. This is Lua line. This is for this thing on the bottom. It's just some stuff. This is for the left sections here, and inactive sections is over here. Oh, whoops, sorry. So yeah. Envim tree doesn't really do much. Telescope, again, doesn't do much. We just load the undo extension. Tree sitter, this just has all the stuff we have to ensure that's installed. So tree sitter will work with these languages. And as you can see, which key is here. Surprisingly, I didn't realize my config was this minimal, if you can say. But yeah, I never actually walked through it. So yeah, that's my config. The link's in the description. The GitHub repo for it is in the description. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. It's very different from my regular content. Well, not really, but yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think. And leave a comment. Let me know what I should make a video on next. Anyways, thank you guys for watching.